friends. Welcome to Tea with Limina. It's March 2025, and it's a super dreary day here in Maine. Excuse me, I feel all froggy and stuck inside because it's mud season. Ugh. I'm learning to embrace this time of year called mud season since living in New England for the last almost, 13 years now, and trying to figure out how to embrace all of the learnings that we can have during this transitional time, this liminal time called mud season. So I thought today I'd take just a few minutes from your time, and thank you so much for tuning in if you're watching this live or if you listen to it after the fact, to reflect with me on how we can use these liminal times between different eras, different periods, or literally between different seasons to recognize new sources of resiliency and humor and fun that we can have in ourselves. So the first thing that I realize I need to do with mud season is recognize that we are actually in mud season, because here in Maine, it sort of sneaks up on you. We've had extremely cold days, but it really only takes 1 or 2 days where there's a bit of a thaw for the mud to become most prevalent. Mud season occurs because the long warming days melt the surface of the earth, but it's still so hard packed and frozen deep down that it creates this really sort of gooey, mucky, slippery, messy mess. Whenever we go out for a walk, there's some roads that become impassable during mud season. You'll see, 3 or 4 or 5 cars stuck in the mud waiting for tow trucks. So mud season is no joke and be quite dangerous. So recognizing that we are there is super helpful because then it helps us to plan a little bit better. During the winter, I have obviously big, deep snow boots that we use, but turning to mud season, you need hardcore rubber boots that go up a little bit higher. Mine come almost to my knees so that when I'm mucking about, trying to just walk the dogs, or you can be shoveling snow on one side and on the other side, standing ankle deep in mud. So preparing and equipping ourselves for mud season becomes very important. We shift our footwear. We have old towels inside every door for our feet and for the dog's feet. We have to shift our travel routes if we're going on more rural roads up here. So recognizing that you're in mud season and then equipping yourself to deal with it can be super important. And of course, when we're in mud seasons in our lives, these lessons are even more important. Recognizing that you're in a stuck time, that you feel overwhelmed by what's going on in our culture, especially if there are particular dynamics and patterns in your own life, in your family life, in your professional lives that cause you to feel stuck. Simply naming I'm in a mud season can help you take that next step of equipping yourself to deal with it. I also need a lot of help during mud season. Just last week, I was walking with my son and my foot got stuck so deep in the mud that when I tried to step out of it, I literally pulled the boot off of my foot and was standing there on, trying to balance on one foot so I didn't stick my sock down in the gross mud. My son, of course, is laughing hysterically at me, and it took him quite a few moments to get control of himself so that he could get my boot unstuck and help me get resituated. But in those mud seasons of our lives, I think we all have had those experiences where we get stuck so deep that we literally pull our boots off of ourselves. And learning to turn to a trusted friend or spiritual director or therapist or family member to ask for help is sometimes essential. And other times it can just make for smoother travel. And Bill and I were walking the dogs. I hit a super, super slick patch of mud, and reaching out to grab his arm to stabilize myself made sure that I was safe, but also gave us a little connection and an opportunity to be joined together in the mucky messiness of the season. When I got stuck in the mud, I was frustrated and initially angry and sort of squiggled and wiggled and was trying to yank my foot loose and just kind of standing still and feeling sorry for myself. And it wasn't, all that helpful that Charlie was dying with laughter. If at all possible, if I had noticed that I was beginning to sink and just kept moving, I might have been able to make it through that particularly muddy patch. But because I got so stuck in feeling sorry for myself and, just kind of literally twisting in the mire, I sank myself deeper and, of course, then pulled the boot off my foot. So, in these muddy seasons in our lives when we feel stuck, if there are any ways that we can keep moving, this might be simply literally getting outside and going for a walk, or if you're feeling particularly paralyzed by the amount of suffering that you're experiencing in the world, if there is something local that you can do, some act of service that you can provide, some organization that you can volunteer with, perhaps a new organization that you can volunteer with. Bringing some motion, preserving some motion, moving forward can help us, help prevent us getting super stuck in the nasty, mucky mud. It also is really helpful when you can keep moving. It gives you the opportunity to look around you and to see what else is out there other than the mud, because, of course, mud season means that the earth is thawing. And the thawing earth means that very, very soon, I think we're going to see some snowdrops and some crocuses coming up here in Maine. A little beyond that, we'll get some daffodils. So, of course, mud season is the predictor of new life that will be coming. When I can remember that all of the stuckness and the yuckiness and the dirtiness and the mess is paving the way, leading the way to new life, that helps me have a different perspective on the mud, especially if it feels like it's a time where there is no ending, remembering that this is truly a season. Mud season always comes to an end. It always yields to spring. The ground always dries up. We don't have perpetual mud seasons, thanks be to God. So if you need that reminder that new life comes after mud, then perhaps print a picture of a snowdrop or a daffodil or something and keep it near your computer or someplace in your house to remind you that everything has a purpose, even when it feels very dire and very, very stuck. And lastly, as I shared in the episode with Walking with Charlie, mud can sometimes bring some unexpected joy, as he absolutely adores mud season. He goes out and of course, rolls in it and stomps around in it, and he has all sorts of fun in the mud. And I was laughing walking down to the beach the other day because my boots were making a farting noise when I was coming through the mud. And I was thinking of how much Ollie, our little grandson, would love hearing my farting boots. And, as long as I was already disgusting and muddy and, in no danger of being clean anytime soon, I decided to just stomp around in it a little bit and have fun playing in the mud as much as I can play without worrying about slipping and hurting myself. But it ended up, there were little bright spots, little moments of humor in the middle of all of the grossness. So we continue to live in incredibly difficult times. I'm trying to resist using the language of dark times. I'm going to write about that on our blog at liminarenewal.com, because as we're experiencing so much increase in racism or explicit racism in this culture, I feel that one tiny thing that I can do to become more aware of the racist tendencies in my own life and in my own past is to think about how I use language, and that dark does not equal bad and light does not equal good. And so I am thinking more about how we are in a time that is full of stuckness, or that it is a time when the clarity of our vision is clouded by dirt and by grime and needs to be wiped away and purged and cleaned or burned off, but really trying to pay attention to and work with what language I'm using to describe the times that we're in. So mud season seems like a more helpful one to me than language of dark and light. Anyway, thank you, my friends. Please visit us at liminarenewal.com to learn more about what we do here. And as always, I'm really, really grateful to know that you're out there and that you are sharing all of your life and your passion for justice in this world with those in your community. Many blessings to you all. Bye-bye.